Hi, everybody. This is Carolina Millan here with another episode of Beyond the Hustle. And today I'm here with Liz Willits. She is a professional copywriter, speaker. She works at Aweber as well. And she calls herself, what did you say? An email marketing nerd.
Yes, an email marketing nerd.
I love it. How are you, Liz?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. So email marketing is a big part of what I do, and I think a lot of our listeners. And there have been so many people saying for the last, I don't know, ever since I started doing email marketing in 2012, people keep saying that email is dying, and I don't agree with that. But I would love to know your before we get into your background and your story. I would love to know your opinion on that statement.
Yeah, so two things I say to that. First off, every single year, there are more email accounts and more emails being sent on a daily basis. And there are actually more people with email accounts than Facebook accounts. So the population of people using email is vast and it's huge. Plus, if you look at any of your favorite marketers, they're using email marketing and is one of their most relied on channels. So email is definitely not dead, and it's actually one of the marketing channels that has the most conversions of any other marketing channel. So it's extremely effective still.
So how did you get started with this? How did you end up working in email marketing and copywriting? What were you doing before? Also.
Gotcha. Yeah. So in college, I was an English major because I just loved to write. So I loved writing. I loved being able to communicate with people through writing. And in college, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do and did not want to be a teacher. So decided to go into marketing and into content marketing because you get to write and you get to speak to so many people through your writing, and you're also an educator, but in a different way. So started at a software as a service, another SaaS company in the Philadelphia suburbs, started working there and started doing email marketing at that company. And just fell in love with the power of email and how effective it is for marketing a business and for talking to people about your product or your service, and just to communicate with people at scale, but in a really personal way. So absolutely fell in love with it there, and then jumped at the opportunity to take a job at Aweber because they're an email marketing platform. So I got to focus my time on email, work with some of the most successful email marketers out there and learn what they're doing. And also, we serve entrepreneurs and small businesses. So getting to work alongside entrepreneurs who are changing the world with these amazing products and services and are hustling like crazy so that they can share what they've done with everyone. And email is one of the most powerful and effective ways they do it. So getting to work alongside those entrepreneurs has been such a blessing and so amazingly inspiring. And I'm also, like I said, an email marketing nerd. So studying email all the time is really fun. And that's how I got where I am today and in the field of email marketing.
It is. It is. How long have you been working there so far?
I've been at Aweber nearly 4 years now.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. So, well, like we were just discussing about email still being very relevant. So is social media as well. So how can people combine the two? How can people use email marketing effectively and also social media effectively to drive more sales?
Great question. So one of the challenges I hear from people a lot lately, from our customers and from marketers, is that what they've found of social is while you can get attention, it's really hard to convert people from social media or to get them to buy from social media. It's more of an intention or awareness platform. So one of the great ways to use email and social together is to take your social audience and get them to join your email list. Because with email, you can communicate with them anytime. You're not dependent on an algorithm, which may or may not show your message to people. Often Facebook messages and Facebook and Instagram posts, your followers don't see them, but with email, you can be sure that they see them. Some ways to use your social channels and your email marketing together are to put your sign-up forms on your social channels to encourage people to subscribe to your email list. And that way you have more control over how and when you communicate with them. You own your email list, whereas you don't own social platforms or what Zuckerberg does with Facebook or how algorithms change. So definitely one way to do it is to get people from your social channels to your email list. Another thing you can do is drive engagement for your social media marketing using email. So one thing that I've seen people do a lot is share their social posts in their emails. And what that does is drives engagement because you're sending people that social post, they like, they comment, they share it, and then the hope is that it goes viral or other people are seeing it and it increases engagement. And I've seen Gary Vee doing this quite a bit,
Yeah,
a lot of success with his Instagram posts.
absolutely. Like, and when you see that people like him are still using email, it's like, okay, even though he's so devoted to social, then you know that email is still a very, very valuable piece of marketing. What are some, and this is also something that interests me personally, what are some mistakes that people make when it comes to email marketing?
A big one I see is people still want to buy email lists,
Yeah.
even today. So
Yeah.
I have people ask me all the time, "Oh, where can I buy an email list? Is it a good thing to buy an email list?" And the answer is definitely no. First off, because it's not legal, and second off,
Mhm.
because you know, imagine if your email list was sold and someone else was just emailing you who you have no idea who they are, you didn't opt in. What are your chances of buying from them? So people don't really buy from companies when their email list was on a purchase email list. And also another thing, if you're sending to email lists that were purchased, your email deliverability or how many of your emails reach the inbox can significantly decrease because Gmail and Yahoo, when they realize you're sending to a bot list, they don't want to deliver the emails.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a waste of money to buy an email list because the likelihood that your emails will get delivered is pretty small. Um, Another big mistake I see is when people don't have an automated welcome email or an automated welcome series on their list. So a welcome email is the first email that goes out to people once they subscribe, and like in the what it's called, it's automated. Uh, so the problems with not sending one are that people are super engaged when they first subscribe to your list. So if you don't send a welcome email, you're kind of missing out on all that engagement. I often see welcome emails with 90% open rates and 60% click-through rates. So if
Mm.
you don't have one, you're really missing out on all that engagement. Plus, it kind of makes a bad impression on your subscriber. They don't know that they actually successfully subscribed, and they're also waiting to hear from you, and you don't have that email going to them.
Mm.
And then another big mistake is just infrequently emailing. So some people won't email their list for months, and then the next time they email them, it's a sales email
Yeah.
trying to get them to buy something. And so they're not giving any value to their subscribers. They're just trying to sell them something all the time, or their subscribers only hear from them if they want something from them.
Hmm. Yeah. What would you say is a good frequency to email? Because there are a lot of people who say every day, twice a day, or once a week. Or how do you figure out the right frequency so that you don't lose touch, but you don't also feel like you're spamming?
I think ideally you're emailing at least once a week, at the very least once a month. And that is for just keeping people engaged and making sure they remember who you are. But know a lot of really successful newsletters that are daily newsletters. And
Hmm.
if you can send valuable content on a daily basis, so if you can give your subscribers value on a daily basis, certainly send a daily newsletter because you're keeping top of mind all of the time. But a lot of people also tell me that, I don't have the time to send a daily newsletter, in which case a weekly or a monthly is more practical for sure.
For me, for example, I find it simple to keep the engagement. Sometimes it's a little harder to transition into selling something. So what are some of the strategies that you use that you recommend people who are looking to sell with email?
Great question. So one of the things I recommend is first, when someone joins your list, give them value first before you start to sell. So make sure you're giving them some kind of value before you transition right into selling them. Another thing I often recommend to people is to use the PAS formula when you are selling people. I use PAS all the time. It stands for problem, agitation, solution. So first, you give people a problem that they have in their lives. You agitate that problem and explain why it's such a big deal, and then you present your product or your service as a solution. So PAS type emails are really effective as far as copywriting and getting people to convert. But I think the big thing is to show people how your product or your service will transform their lives. So if you can show them how you're going to make their life better, that's how you can get them to buy, because ultimately people don't buy for the features you have or the discount you have. They buy because you're giving them something life-changing. So definitely talk about how your product's life-changing. And I always have a PAS email and then a proof email too that I send. So a proof email would be something like a testimonial, a case study, reviews, ratings.
That's very, very important in terms of gaining people's trust also, so they know you're not just making things up. So do you have any tips or advice to improve deliverability? Because that's probably one of the main issues. Like, how do you get into the inbox and not the spam box? What increases your chances?
Right. So engagement is a big part of that. So the click-through rates and the open rates you get on a consistent basis really impact your email deliverability. So if you're struggling with low click-through rates and low open rates, the email list you're sending to, you need to reinvigorate it or get them to engage more frequently, because what Gmail and Yahoo see is they see this email list who they think don't want to receive your emails because they're not opening them and they're not clicking them. So you need to get that engagement up. And one of the best ways to get the engagement up is to send really valuable content that's free. So if you're struggling with those low open rates, those low click-through rates, I suggest sending a few emails that are just value-packed emails that are going to get people to engage and also get your subscribers to know that you send awesome email content, because then they're more likely to engage in the future. So definitely a big part of that is engagement. Unsubscribes and spam complaints are also a big part of it. So if those are high, you're going to have problems with deliverability. And then another thing people always talk to me about is, well, if you use a really templated email, is that going to impact your deliverability, or should you use a plain text email? And more, Gmail and Yahoo are not taking templated emails and sending them to the spam folder. So you don't have to send these plain text emails to reach the inbox.
Okay, I like plain text emails mostly because it just goes straight to the point without distractions, colors, banners. But it's good to know. I did think that the templates would be more likely to go in the spam. But that's good to know. That's good to know. What are some subject lines that you have seen? I mean, maybe generic, right? Subject lines that you have seen work well across industries? Because that also influences, of course, the open rate.
Right. So one of the things I think works really well right now that most people aren't doing is really short subject lines. And that's for two reasons. I recently studied what 100 of the top marketers are doing right now with their email marketing. And I took all of their subject lines and I analyzed them and their actual length. And most people have subject lines over 21 characters, like 90% of people. But if you can go under 21 characters, you're going to stand out because most people aren't doing it. So that's one reason to try really short emails. Now, 20 characters is not much. It's like a few words. So it's a challenge, but you can stand out by doing it. Also, 50% of emails are opened on mobile devices now. So that is something to consider when you're writing your subject lines, because mobile devices, the subject line often gets cut off at around 30 to 40 characters. So if it's getting cut off, that's a weird experience for subscribers. If it's 20 characters or less, it's not going to get cut off. So that's
Mm.
another reason to try the short subject lines. Someone who's doing this really well right now is Brian Dean of Backlinko. He does these really short subject lines that are kind of intriguing. So I think that's something to try right now, short subject lines. Another thing is really, really long subject lines, because again, you'll stand out. Most people aren't doing it. So you could have a
Yeah.
really descriptive long subject line and test that. But ultimately, I do recommend split testing your subject lines. That's one of the best ways to find out what your audience likes in particular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because on the other hand, when it gets cut off, if you manage to make it look like a little cliffhanger where it's too long and it doesn't fit, like, what is it? And then you want to click and see the full subject line. So I guess it's tricky. You have to test. You never know it's going to work.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the things that I personally have been I don't want to say procrastinating on, but maybe I am, is implementing more email automation. And I mean automation in terms of if somebody clicked, then you apply a tag and then you send them a different sequence and all of this stuff. That sounds really complicated, but what's your advice in terms of that? Like besides having a welcome email sequence, what happens next? How do you automate? How do you save some time and get more conversions with automation?
Right. Yeah. So you could automate your entire customer experience. So your welcome series from when someone first joins your list to when they start being more interested in your product. For instance, let's say they attend a webinar. That's a pretty big level of commitment. So you can probably move them down in your funnel and send them more product type emails. So I would recommend having an automation series where you have a part of it that's for people who are top of funnel. You have a mid funnel part where people are more problem aware or even product aware. And then you have a conversion part of your funnel where you're really just trying to sell them. And then once they become customers, maybe you're upselling them if you're an e-commerce site. So you're upselling them with additional products you offer, or if you're a SaaS business, for instance, you're trying to keep retention. So keep retention up. So that part of your email series should be focused on customer happiness, on education, and even getting reviews from them if they are happy. So you definitely want a full funnel experience. Think about your audience and your individual subscribers and where they're at every part of the buying cycle, and have emails that relate to those different parts of the buying cycle.
What other writing tips do you have? Because a lot of people get writer's block, right? What do I write about? What do I write about? What are some of your best writing tips for email?
Number one, write like you speak. So I often see people, the moment they start writing an email, they sound like a robot, and that's not at all how they speak. When they're talking to someone, they're very charismatic. They offer great descriptions of different things, but then the moment they're writing an email, they sound like a robot. So don't be robotic. Have a tone that you use that's human and that's relatable, and don't be so rule oriented or so impersonal in the inbox. Make it a really personal thing. You can bring yourself to the inbox. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to spend hours on it, but be yourself. And another thing is make sure to check for errors. This seems like a really simple thing, but a lot of times people don't send themselves a test email. So they'll have an incorrect link in an email and they don't realize it, which can be really devastating. So definitely test your emails before you send them to your entire list. And then another thing is short sentences and short paragraphs, because it's much easier to read on the web. If you think about reading from your phone, short paragraphs and short sentences are really, really going to help with that, because the moment someone sees a really long paragraph, it's going to be really hard for them to keep their spot in the email and in the text. So with mobile devices and how much people use them, definitely go for those short sentences and short paragraphs, even if sometimes it's not what your English teacher taught you or what your language teacher taught you. They always would tell me, make sure that you have complete sentences or you do this or that. But those rules aren't really the same anymore when you're writing for the web.
Yeah, exactly. And in terms of like the length of the email, because one thing is the paragraphs, which I also like keeping them short, but is it better to write a very long email and just have people click on a link, or is it good to tell a long story? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, so that this is actually something else I researched. So I
Uh-huh.
looked out what the 100 top marketers or 100 of the top marketers are doing as far as email length, and it really varied. So I had some people who had who had emails that took about 1 minute to read, and I had other people who sent emails that took about 15 minutes to read.
Wow.
One of those was Ann Handley. She's the chief content officer at Marketing Profs, and her newsletter Total Anarchy takes around like 12 to 15 minutes to read every single time. It's filled with
Wow.
links and valuable content, and because it's filled with so much value, I don't think the length matters. But basically, I think if you should have a tone and a style that you follow. So if you're always sending short emails, all of a sudden sending this really long one that's out of place is kind of a weird thing to do. Um, but it also depends on your goal. If you want them to click through to your website, your email should probably be shorter. And if you want them to stay in the email, then you can get away with a longer email. But on average, we found that emails take around 3 minutes to read. So that was the average length that these 100 experts were using. And that's around 400 characters. I mean, 400 words.
Mm. Can we find that research somewhere? And have you published it, or this is just an internal thing you did?
It's published. Yeah. So I can share the link with you.
Oh, that would be great because I can put it in the description so people can check it out. That would be awesome.
Cool. I'll send it.
Um, yeah. And about links, because this is another topic that people ask me about. What's reasonable in terms of how many links you should put in one email, even if they go to the same website? Because I do that a lot. I put the link at the beginning, maybe then in the middle, and then at the end. But then I see people who put like 6, 7, 10, I don't know how many links. Does that influence going into the spam box or anything else? Or you can put as many links as you want. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, so you shouldn't use bit.ly links in an email, first off.
Okay,
That's
good.
one thing to know. Second off, the amount of links in your emails, as long as you're sending to like good sites, isn't really a problem. So you take something like, if you've ever heard of The Skim is a daily newsletter and they have millions and millions of subscribers, and they send out a bunch of links in their email. There must be like 15 or 20 links, and they're
Mm,
super successful and they haven't had problems with that. So I don't think the amount of links you have is a problem. But I do think if you want people to take one specific action from your newsletter, then you shouldn't include like 15 different links. So if you're really
right.
hyper focused on them buying, you don't want to include, 10 other links to something else. But if you're having a newsletter where it's very educational and you're telling them about all the awesome things you saw this week and this awesome article you read that they'll love, then you're providing this amazing amount of value to them, and the engagement that Google and Yahoo will notice in that email is going to help your deliverability, and you don't really need to worry about the amount of links in that email.
Hmm. That's good to know. So, other than Bitly, are there other, I don't know, links that are globally blackmail? Not blackmailed. What is blacklisted? Or other URL shorteners that people shouldn't use?
Um, I'm not aware of other URL shorteners, but I think URL shorteners as a whole might be something to avoid.
Mhm.
And then links to like shady websites
Shady websites.
can cause problems. And I won't really, go into that, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
So avoid shady websites and link shorteners if possible.
Yes. And does it matter? Because a lot of the experts I follow, they say you're from email, right? The email that people will see when they open, who is it from, right? The email that you're using as your outgoing. Does that also influence the open? I mean, not the open rates necessarily, but the deliverability. For example, if I'm sending from a Gmail or a Yahoo, or I'm sending from a corporate email, is there a big difference there?
Uh, yeah, so first, it's definitely better for deliverability to send from your own domain name email address. So your name at yoursite.com is much better than sending from a Gmail address as far as deliverability. So
Mm.
that's definitely true. And then as far as sender name itself, one thing you want to avoid is changing your sender name all the time. So changing your sender name frequently can cause issues with deliverability, where ISPs like Yahoo and Gmail and your ESP will think your ESP as in your email marketing platform. Will think, hey, this is shady. They're changing their sender name all the time. They're trying to, trick their subscribers. So another thing to avoid is changing your sender name all the time. And I do recommend, if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, your sender name should be your name, because that tends to increase open rates.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a health newsletter, I forgot the name, that I'm a part of. And almost every day they change the sender name to the almost like the topic of the email. So if they're talking about I don't know, your bladder and your bladder health or whatever, the sender is your bladder. So it's really strange, and it's really confusing too. They do hit my inbox because I do open them a lot, I guess. But yeah, I thought it was a weird practice.
Yeah, and it's also weird because it's like you're saying, it's confusing for the subscriber, especially like if you're sending really, really awesome email content, your subscribers are looking for your name in the inbox, right, because they want to open your emails. So all of a sudden, if you change your name, they're not going to know who you are. So if you're sending really great content, consistency there is important for sure.
Absolutely. So finally, for people listening or watching who are struggling with building their email list, or they're just getting started, they don't know if they should, what is your advice for people just starting out? How can they build their email list?
Great question. So one, definitely create an email sign-up form and just ask for people's names and their email addresses. And ideally, you'll give people a lead magnet or some kind of incentive to join your email list, and you'll promote it on your sign-up form. So that could be your best blog posts, so your top 10 blog posts if you happen to have a blog. It could be a video that you give away as your lead magnet. It could be a worksheet or a one-sheeter, whatever. But some kind of free content. If you're in e-commerce, it could be a discount, like a 10% discount on products. But that will get people and encourage people to join your list. And if you're just getting started, what I recommend to people is send your sign-up form to your contacts in your email address book, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and reach out to them and say, hey, like, I just started this email newsletter. I'm sharing this content, and I'm an expert in this field, and I'm ready now to share everything I know from the years that I've been working in this field. Would you want to join my email list and be one of the first people to receive this content? And ask them to opt in that way. That's a great way to get your first 50, maybe your first 100 email subscribers. And it's extremely practical. It doesn't take any budget. So that's a free way. Another way, if you really want to scale your list growth, so if you're ready to grow a lot, webinars are extremely effective. People love to opt into webinars. You can use Facebook ads to drive people to your sign-up form, or you're offering a lead magnet. So that's another way to do it at scale. And then partnering with other people in your space. So if there's another influencer in your space who has a similar audience base, you could ask that influencer to mention your email list in their next newsletter and say, hey guys, subscribe to this. It's an awesome email list and newsletter. And then you could do the same for them, promote their email newsletter, their email list in your email newsletter.
There are actually people who charge for that and make some really good money.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I forgot to ask, the double opt-in, because with the latest changes in Europe with the privacy, the GDPR, and all of this, there was a lot of confusion last year. Now nobody talks about it anymore. It's really funny. But is double opt-in recommended regardless of the regulations, or is it okay to just get people straight to the email list without having to confirm? So for people who don't know, double opt-in means you have to confirm that you want to be on somebody's list, and the other way is they just opt in and they're immediately in it. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so double opt-in is definitely recommended, because it increases your email deliverability. It's one of the easiest ways to increase your email deliverability. It also prevents bots from joining your list for the most part. And a lot of people get bot traffic to their sign-up forms. A bot fills out the form, and then they're on your email list, but they're not clicking your emails. So that can hurt your email deliverability. So double opt-in is a great way to increase your email deliverability. However, if you don't do double opt-in, it's not the end of the world. But I do recommend, if you don't do it, that you're regularly cleaning your email list, getting people off your email list who aren't engaging. If you have a group of people who haven't opened or clicked an email in 6 months, just unsubscribe them because they're hurting you. They're not helping you. So yeah, double opt-in recommended, not an absolute necessity.
Yeah, makes sense. Liz, thank you so much for your time today. Where can people find you, learn more about you? And of course, we're going to put the link to your research in the description when you give it to me.
Absolutely. So you can learn more about AWeber at aweber.com, or on Twitter, our handle is @aweber. And on Instagram, it is AWeber as well. If you'd like to follow me personally, my Twitter handle is Liz Willits. So you can follow me there. I'd love to stay in touch with everyone.
Excellent. Thank you so much again for your time. And it was really, really valuable. I hope everybody got some actionable steps to grow their email list and have a better relationship with your list. And thank you so much once again. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.